The Extraordinaires, Hearts of Men, by Haiku Origami. "It's a gorgeous day here in North City at the Monument Gala," said a female news reporter, holding her mic steady. "All the stars are shining in spectacular fashion, and look, there's our guests of honor, the world-renowned Extraordinaires." Landing in a private helicopter, the heroes made their way into the function, Admiral Authority leading the way, his armor dazzling in the flash of cameras. To his left was Vexa, her synthetic body moving with grace. To his right was Architect, who waved and blew kisses at the crowd. Behind them, Occulta and Voltage hovered above Brutus as he trudged with the swagger of an athlete. Last in formation was Siphon, who awkwardly tried to go unnoticed. Cheers went off as they reached a podium. Posing, they were drowned in applause. What a marvelous turnout! The reporter swooned over a television that played in an empty apartment. "Yes, quite marvelous indeed," said a lone gunman looking through his scope. In his sights he had Admiral Authority dead to rights. Unaware of this danger, the Admiral prepared to deliver a speech. Finger gliding over the trigger, the gunman fired. If not for Brutus, enhanced hearing and speed, Authority would have been hit. Jumping in front of the bullet, he was rocked by an explosion. The crowd panicked, everyone stumbling to reach an exit when from an escalator a group of villains arrived. Original Terror, a cadre of evil that had surfaced to destroy the Extraordinaires. "Victor," Authority noted, eyeing the leader down. Drawing his sword, he pointed it and shouting, "Extraordinaires, engage!" Architect reacted first, visualizing a cannon that took shape in his grip. Worrying, it let out a blast that was sure to wipe the villains clean off the map. However, dust cleared to show them still standing. An energy barrier flickered around the triumvirate. Victor smirked. "Well done, Bracket," he said, unsheathing his own sword. "The luminary blade," Occulta mouthed. Energies coalescing in her palms, she manipulated magics to work in her favor. Lifting the podium and surrounding objects, she launched them at the villains. But before impact, they were blasted out of the sky by a wave of radiation emitted from the one known as Meltdown. "Try again," he said, building up another release that struck Siphon square in her chest. The heroine absorbed the radiation and redirected the blast into the sky, turning it a dark shade of red. The villains broke out, targeting the heroes individually. Encased in a force field, Brutus threw punches that only reinforced the shield. In the sky, Meltdown faced off against Siphon and Architect, beams flying in all directions, demolishing the building from the inside out. Circling one another, Admiral Authority and Victor spoke of their shared history. "For too long have you heroes been an obstacle in our way. For too long have we had to sit and wait, yearning for the day of our triumph. Well, that day has come." "That's where you're wrong. We beat you before, we'll do it again." "Believe what you want, Admiral. Mercenary now." From a nearby building, Mercenary fired off shots one at a time, each bullet detonating against Authority's shield, pushing him back some as Victor charged in. Swinging rashly, he slashed the hero's back, drawing his attention once more. His armor smoldering, Authority spun, cutting to where Victor ducked. Slicing upwards as Authority brought his sword down, their blades connected, the properties of the weapons causing a shockwave that shook the room. Glass shattered to the ground around Voltage, electricity pouring from his power suit in a current that collided with Bracket's protective layering. "That's a lot of juice," he said, his force field flickering, "but it ain't nearly enough." Voltage jetted off his feet and rammed into the villain. In a flash, the two went crashing through the gala halls. Brutus, now freed, turned his sights on Meltdown as he overpowered Architect and Siphon. Caught in a powerful display of energy, they fell from the air, crumbling hard on the bamboo flooring. Jumping up, Brutus cracked the villain in his chin with an uppercut that sent him smashing through the ceiling. Shaking off the slight daze, Meltdown zoomed down, catching the brute before he hit the ground. Slamming him into the ground, he didn't let up, pounding away, each strike melting away flesh. Healing just as fast, Brutus booted his attacker away and blinked tightly. An explosion went off around the fiend, though it hardly affected his motion. Catching himself, he maneuvered his body in order to bolt back at Brutus, only to be intercepted by Occulta shooting off a mystic beam. Nearby, Siphon crawled over to Architect to make sure he was alive. Pulling him to his feet, the two targeted Victor. Kicking Admiral Authority to the ground, he raised his luminary blade, ready to behead our hero, when in the corner of his eye he caught reinforcements rushing in. Blocking a stream of energy, his sword absorbed the power and redirected the yield back at Siphon, a direct hit. Her body skidded past Architect, who manifested a javelin to which he hurled. Catching the weapon midair, Victor tossed it behind him and charged in, swiping rashly. Architect slid on his knees, leaning back to dodge. "I'm on your ass now," Architect said, jumping off his feet to sidekick Victor in his ribs. Stepping back, holding his side, Victor twirled his sword and steadied himself when Authority stepped in. "He's mine," Authority stated, lowering his visor. Across the street, Mercenary got ready to enter the battle. Shoving a clip in his assault rifle, he headed for the door, but to his surprise, Vexa was standing in the hall. Wasting no time, her pistols shot off laser beams that would have riddled a lesser opponent. Jumping out of the way, Mercenary rolled across creaky floorboards and sprung up, letting off automatic rounds. Completely locked in, Vexa evaded every shot and closed the gap. They went tit for tat, kicks and punches connecting, but Mercenary knew he couldn't beat an android hand to hand. Unclipping a grenade, he dropped it and kicked himself off Vexa's chest. The bang forced him out the window, and in a showcase of acrobatics, he flipped and caught a clothesline. Walking through the flames, Vexa watched as Mercenary climbed down from the second building and sprinted towards the battle. Dropping from the window, Vexa landed sturdy on cracking pavement and gave chase. Looking back, Mercenary sprayed a wall of bullets. Spinning on her toes, the Biomatin pounced on all fours to catch up. Lunging, she tackled him to the ground. Attempting to apprehend the villain, she was trapped in a force field and lifted above ground. Looking to her left, she saw Bracket had captured Voltage as well. Struggling to break free, they watched as their team fell one by one. Tracing sigils in the air, Occulta was caught off guard. Felled by Brutus, who had been thrown into her by Meltdown. Radiation building around him, he blasted away at Admiral Authority and Architect, who had managed to put up his own force field to protect himself. The Admiral, however, was struck and forced to his knees. Siphon hurried in, but she too was enclosed in a barrier. On one knee, his armor scorched, his sword etched into the fault. Authority observed the scene. Architect's shield held, though he was clearly having a hard time holding Meltdown at bay. The villain continued to pour on energy, with his team regrouping around Victor, who tread forward. His footsteps created a vibration that surged up the Admiral's sword. In that moment, flames surrounding him, Admiral Authority had a flashback to when he formed the Extraordinaires. He remembered how he told them he'd never lead them astray and that his word was his bond. This fueled him to power through. Taking a deep breath, he stumbled to his feet. Architect looked over his shoulder, and his confidence was restored, seeing Authority fix his shield straps. "I shall not falter, not here, not today, not against you," Authority stated, pulling his sword from the fault. "I'm with you, Admiral," Architect assured, increasing the dexterity of his shield, causing it to implode and throw the villains back. Released from captivity, Brutus and Voltage engaged once more. Brutus took on Victor while Voltage distracted Mercenary, zipping about, drawing his fire away from the others. Brutus swiped at Victor, but he was nimble, ducking and dodging, slashing, leaping over the behemoth of a man and landing behind him. Disregarding Brutus, Victor focused on Authority. Vexa wouldn't allow a one-on-one, jumping between them, her pistols going off in succession. Blocking the lasers, Victor's luminary blade blazed as he sent a stream of energy at the heroes. Siphon, moving at top speeds, crashed into Meltdown, her fist going straight through his chest. "You didn't," he said, looking down at his damaged containment suit. "You killed us all." Acting quickly, Occultus spoke a spell, and a bubble warped around Meltdown. Looking on in sorrow, a tear dropped from her eye. "This is a pain your soul alone must bear," she whispered as the villain imploded. The energy was contained, but the blast wave shook the building, threatening collapse. Victor looked around at his team as failure took its course, and in that instant he stepped down, the ceiling crumbling around him until he was buried in rubble. Brackett put up a force field around himself and Mercenary. Brutus shielded Architect as the roof came down. When the dust settled, the extraordinaires climbed from the debris triumphant. Around them, news crews and civilians gathered, police holding the line as the heroes lamented their enemies' deaths. Do not celebrate this victory, authority advised, for the hearts of men are sullen, hence why our enemies banded against us. We almost lost, compadre, at least let us have the win. Authority didn't reply, instead he walked off, sheathing his sword and wadding into the night.